we got a story here that's very suspicious.
Yes.
The city recently arranged a $3 million contract for a company to perform COVID-19 testing. Now, did they go with Kaiser Permanente or CVS or any other major medical operation? No. They went with some company called Bluestone. And suspiciously, it's co-owned by a city commissioner named Pedram Salimpour.
He's a 3-time appointed commissioner of the Los Angeles Fire and Police Pension Board. They manage over $25 billion in assets.
And it turns out he is a prolific, that's the word they use, a prolific political donor to people like Mark Ridley Thomas.
What?
On his way to prison. Councilman Mitch Englander already arrived at prison.
Oh, you didn't hear about him?
No, did he get out?
He's been moved into what they call an in-between house.
Halfway house?
Yeah, I think it's actually in Long Beach. He's coming out soon. He's going to be completely released soon. He's actually out of... Yeah. The story broke yesterday. Yeah, he's been transferred.
I didn't know.
Oh, yeah, he's close to being released.
Oh, that's terrible.
What
about the... Is there
he did his time.
Do they have a prostitute waiting for him at the halfway house? Or
I don't know. It's some sort of transitional housing that he's in.
And also it gives a lot of money to the current city attorney and wannabe mayoral candidate Mike Fuhrer. He's the man with the mustache. So this guy has paid off a lot of politicians and now suddenly gets a $3 million no-bid contract to do the COVID-19 testing. And we have Jamie McBride coming on, director of the LA Police Protective League. That's their union. And he's crying foul on this.
Right.
Welcome to the John and Ken Show. How are you?
Great. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right. Who is this guy? Pedram Salimpour.
Well, before we get there, I don't know if you noticed that foul stench when you get near downtown, but it's not coming from Skid Row. It's coming from City Hall because we have a lot of dirty politicians that just have their pockets lined with dirty money. We're only in L.A. Can you have a company owned by a city commissioner and political donor land a $3 million no-bid contract to perform COVID-19 testing for all city employees? And it gets worse from there. The city, for the last several weeks, we, being the Los Angeles Police Protective League, have been trying to negotiate this ongoing mandate, this vaccine mandate with the city. And some of the sticking points, one of the major one is the city was adamant that we can only use this Bluestone to get tested. And not only that, it's costing officers $65 each time they take the test, and they have to do it twice a week. So that'd be $260 coming out of their paycheck per paycheck. And it just smells dirty. And this is, like you said, you hit on a couple of the politicians that we have, the so-called city leaders that are indicted or on their way to prison, and one getting out of prison. And we also have some other ones in recent memory that have also been arrested and charged with other crimes of corruption. It just smells dirty. And so you have to ask yourself, did the city impose this mandate knowing there would be thousands of city employees that would require testing due to their choice of not getting vaccinated because of medical religious exemptions? You have to ask yourself some questions. Is that? I mean, maybe we should stop this mandate until we figure this out and find out why they're pushing this company.
There is no ethics law that prevents a police commissioner from profiting over the testing of police.
Well, I'm sure there's some kind of sticky violations there, but let's think about this. You have a no-bid contract. And just so the listeners understand, whenever there's you always hear that joke, something breaks in at work and you're a city employee, like, oh, it always goes to the lowest bidder. Well, there was no lowest bidder because usually they send it out to get 3 or more bids on any type of contract. They didn't do that. They handed this person $3 million, or this company, which is owned by this commissioner. And on top of that, starting January 1st of 2022, if the city falls below 1,000 tests a month or the city stops using the testing, then they're on the hook to pay this company for software maintenance fee of $125,000 a month. And this is a year contract.
So they have to pay whether
they got themselves some nice insurance here,
whether they're testing or not.
Exactly. On top of the $3 million. So you have to ask yourself, what's going on here. But if you really look at it, we have a lot of our officers, probably just under 2,000, that have filed for some exemptions, for medical and religious exemptions, and they're being penalized because they got to pay for this test, and the city hasn't even begun to look at their request for exemption on this vaccination. And these city leaders, they come out. Where were they? First of all, where were they a year ago when our officers on the front line fighting this pandemic and the civil unrest and everything else going on during this pandemic? And now a year later, they're saying, "Hey, if you don't want this shot, get out of Dodge. We don't want you anymore." And we have some officers, like I said, that have religious or medical exemptions they're requesting, and we also have some officers that don't want this vaccination because they're righteously scared of what this is. And this goes with a lot of people. So, and for these city leaders to almost mock these officers, and Garcetti's one of them. There's been some other council members saying, "Hey, if you don't get tested by this date, find another job." And I think that's just wrong. In fact, I think these politicians should find another job.
Do you think they'll follow through with that? We saw the story that a bunch of California state employees haven't been vaccinated, haven't been tested, and it looks like the state's not doing much about it. You think the city will come after police officers who don't vaccinate or test?
I can't really say on that. I mean, I'd hate to say no, they're not, and then have several of my officers that I work amongst get fired or laid off until they get vaccinated. They're playing with people's livelihoods. And, if you really think about it, John and Ken, let's talk about this whole vaccination mandate. It's funny how they say you need this because you can spread it to other coworkers, to the community, or whoever else. But if we go to a restaurant and we sit down, apparently food and drinks suppress COVID because you can sit shoulder to shoulder with 10 people at your table, 2 feet across. You can enjoy a meal, and that's okay. But as soon as you start to walk out that door, you got to go back to work. You got to put that mask on. So I don't know. Is it me? Am I the only one that notices this?
Have you been able to find out?
There's so much stupid stuff.
Who signed off on these no-bid contracts for this city commissioner's company? Do you know?
You know what? We're still looking into that, but it's going to be our probably the COA or whoever is going to be signing off on this these contracts. Right. So, but definitely, I think anybody out there with any kind of common sense is looking at this, and this is wrong. I mean, how can you give somebody a $3 million contract, no bid, so nobody else put a bid in? It's owned by a commissioner, and all the city employees, not just police, but all city employees must use Bluestone. So
this is very suspicious. You are right.
I can't believe this is legal. I would think it would be an absolute. It does look
like insider dealing.
That a police commissioner who owns a company can't have the city give him a no-bid contract
we are talking
with hefty fake penalties.
Right. Well, we are talking about the city of Los Angeles, right? I mean, I've been here for 31 years, and we've all seen a lot of corruption come in and out of City Hall. And to be quite honest with you, I'm going to call the FBI and tell them I think their best thing to do is just open up a field office in City Hall to save the commute sign because they're there, it seems like, every other month investigating some crooked politicians.
Seriously, right. Do you think there is a lot, in your opinion, a lot more corruption involving people whose names we'd recognize that has not been publicized yet or not been caught yet?
I do. Absolutely. I honestly do. With the size of the city and some of these politicians, and this is just scratching the surface. We got lucky and we happened to conduct our investigation, our brief investigation, and scramble to get these documents that we did. But I can tell you that I wouldn't be surprised if there's some more coming in the near future. But we need to really seriously think about this. That we need to stop this mandate on our officers now until this thing is figured out of why they're pushing it so hard. Because they're pushing this thing, and if they're going to risk losing 2,000 officers and also fire department personnel as well, if I was a citizen in Los Angeles, I'd be screaming at the doors of City Hall right now, and I want to make sure that my family's protected.
All right, Jamie, thanks for coming on. Made some good points. We appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me.
All right, the Los Angeles Police Protective League Director Jamie McBride, that's the union for LAPD officers. And, this has always been my thought. You can have a vaccine mandate, but don't fire people in the end over it. It's probably another way to get people in the door, but it's not good unless you really carry through and fire people that don't vaccinate.
Especially cops and firefighters.
Yeah, exactly. I can't afford to lose those. But his point is this no-bid contract for a city commissioner's company to do the COVID testing. Yeah, that doesn't smell right, does it?
No.
And I like that clause where if the testing falls below a certain number or they don't use any testing, they're going to get 125 grand a month
Yeah,
until the
guaranteed.
contract runs out.
Yeah.
Guaranteed, right?
That's great. That's corruption.